Hello there YouTube, this is me George Alacrum, and I'll be teaching you the fundamental ideas in this episode. So, to start off with, I just want to talk about just one simple fact: what an atom is. An atom is made up of protons, neutrons and electrons. Now, there's an exception here, because hydrogen doesn't have a neutron, which is why it appears as 1 and 1 for the atomic and for the atomic mass number on the periodic table. However, everything else has protons, neutrons and electrons. These are known as subatomic particles. Okay, that's pretty much what an atom is. And an example is that the name of a block of iron is the element, and the block of iron contains iron atoms. That's when defining what an element is. So for instance, if the name of a block of iron is the element, the word element is like saying the name of something. It's just a way of saying or describing what the things are on the periodic table, such as these. Instead of saying these things here, or you say this element calcium, this element boron, that's what an element is. Now, what is the periodic table? The periodic table is a chart. As you can see, I've written an explanation. Now, one thing to remember, which is important, is the horizontal rows, which are known as periods, go across the table, whereas the groups go down the table are classified as columns. Now, periods is an important word to know, so that you know what things are called. The scientific example for the exam. Now, once explaining about the periodic table will have the atomic mass and the subatomic numbers on there, which we will see here. And you will be able to make calculations, which I'll go on to in a minute. So, as this is a tip here, this should help you to remember what the difference between a column and a row is. Now, here's a periodic table, as you've just seen. So this is an important fact here. The mass will always be the biggest number. For example, carbon has 12 and 6 on it. The biggest number will be the mass number, which has the neutrons and protons together, which is also known as the atomic mass, but it can just be called the mass sometimes, which in this case is 12. The atomic number in this case will be 6. So you can see here, 6 and 12. Wherever the biggest number is, that's the most important. It doesn't matter which position it is, as long as it's in that particular order. As long as the numbers are on there, that's all that matters. So this is what an atomic structure looks like, and you will need to be able to draw this. Really simple and straightforward here. And here are some facts that can be seen here. So, when the atoms from different elements react together, they make compounds, and simple things like this. Metal atoms react with non-metals, charged particles called ions are formed. These things here help you, because when we talk about covalent or ionic bonding, these forming positive ions, etc., atoms of non-metals bond to each other by sharing electrons, you'll need to know how to draw these. And electrons are negatively and etc., etc. As you can see here, these are the fundamental ideas which you should know. And how atoms bond covalently. Now this is important. To draw a covalent structure, you need to look at the outer shell of the atom. The inside shells aren't really that important, because it's the outside that will be sharing or bonding depending on what kind of bond, whether it's covalent or ionic. So for example, below is a diagram of methane. Hydrogen has 1, carbon has 4. Now, because there are only 4 in the carbon shell, hydrogen has 1, it creates 4 bonds to make a total of 8 in a shell, and its outer shell. this is how things are bonded covalently. They share. Now, ionic's a bit different. Ionic has it. It transfers, is how I would explain it. It transfers it. So there's one in from sodium, and there's another one from chloride here. Chloride only needs one to make 8, and to get rid of one electron here, it will have no outer shell. So it's easy bond, that is. And as we can see below, it gets rid of that and it comes over to chloride. However, when it loses an electron, it becomes positively charged, and when it's negative, it gains one because electrons are negatively charged. So if we go back to these ideas, you will understand why. And what I just said then as well about covalent bonding, with non-metals bond to each other by sharing. And yeah, so going back to my ideas, and that's it really. They're the basic ideas that you need to know. As long as you know what the atoms are, what ionic and covalent bonding is, what a periodic table is, and memorize these facts as I've taught you, and also to calculate the amount of, for example, if it was an equation, I'll do that on a separate video, because that's for different tiers. There's foundation and higher. This is for both really, but I'll do a video in the future explaining how to do it. But I hope I've helped you, and I hope you've understood everything. Pause the video along the way to memorize the different facts, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.